If you're considering buying a home in the coming days or weeks, this is a video for you, because I have 15 years of experience selling real estate and I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of buyers, and I'm going to outline the most commonly asked questions. So if you want the DL on all the things that we tell our buyers and how we consult them, but you're not quite ready to talk to an agent yet, then this is going to be a great video for you because everyone kind of has a lot of the same questions. Before we get started, I'm Stephanie Nause with the Homeplicity Realty Group here at Keller Williams, and I'm passionate about helping our clients build and develop wealth through real estate. If you're interested in tips on buying a home, selling a home, or investing in Toronto real estate, then I hope you'll consider subscribing to our channel. And if you have any questions that I don't address in the video, I hope you'll comment down below. I love a challenge, so go ahead. It doesn't have to be only the easy ones. Okay, so I have some notes here just so that I don't forget anything. And the number one question that I'm getting from everyone right now, just based on the market, is now the right time to buy? Buying a home is really a subjective process. It's going to depend what your goals are, and I would suggest the right time to buy a property is whenever the right time is for you. But I know what people mean from that. They want to know, like, is now a good time? The market's a little bit unstable. I think it's a great time to be purchasing a property in kind of a little bit of uncertainty. All of our clients that got completely beat up and beat out on offers for the last 2 years, guess what, guys? You now don't have to be in competition to be purchasing a property. It's like a gift from the real estate gods, right? Like, you can look at a property, you can think about it for a little bit, and then you can submit an offer below list price. We haven't been able to do that for years. I think from that perspective alone, it just makes the process a lot less stressful, a lot easier for the buyers. The sellers, that's another perspective. But, you know, like, if you're going to be renting a property, we're seeing the market softening up a little bit right now because the Bank of Canada has increased interest rates. We just had a big increase a couple weeks ago. There's a potential that there's another one looming on the market. So potentially we'll see prices soften up a little bit. But at the same time, whenever interest rates go up, guess what else goes up? Rent prices. And the reason for that is because there's less people buying, there's less people that can qualify, there's less people that feel confident buying. That takes a lot of buyers out of the market and it puts them into the rental market. So there's one thing that I do know. I don't know if prices will come down, I don't know if they'll go up, but I do know that if you lock into a lease for the next year at $2,500 a month, you are out that money. None of it went towards paying down your principal. You're not getting the price appreciation. That money's just gone. If we try and determine how much could potentially, hypothetically, prices could come down in the next year versus a guarantee of being out that money if you rent, I think it probably still does make sense to be looking at purchasing right now. If you are a seller who has a home to sell, like, yes, you are going to sell it for a little bit less than what we would have a couple months ago, but you're also going to be buying, especially if you're trading up, for a little bit less. And if the property price is more expensive and the market is down by, let's say, 3 to 4%, the number is bigger on the higher purchase price, if that makes sense. If not, send me a DM and I will have a personal call to explain it to you. What is the best time of year to buy a house in Toronto? This is another one that's going to completely depend on what's happening in the market. There's always a little bit of seasonality in the summertime. So everyone's like, oh my God, prices are falling. Yes, they are. It was always going to happen in the summer. You never see a straight vector going up or going down in the real estate market. It fluctuates a little bit. It's more like a roller coaster. The peaks and valleys and how severe they are really dependent on what's happening in the market. Right now, it's a little bit more on the downward slope, but nobody knows where the bottom is until it's on its way back up. Nobody knows where the top is until it's on its way back down. It's almost impossible to predict this, which is why there's a saying in our industry that you cannot day trade real estate. So if the time is right and you can afford it and you have your down payment saved and you found a great property, I say go for it, because real estate is a long-term game. What are the best areas to buy a home or condo in Toronto? I mean, I'm very biased around this, and there's a reason why I sell a lot of properties in certain areas. It's because I love them And so oftentimes people that are like them, the clients that are attracted to me, are typically ones that have similar goals and similar things that we like. So I'm going to try and show them what I like. But we also factor in and take into account what each client's specific goals are, right? So, you know, for me, for condos, I love Fort York. I lived there for 9 years. We did a video on this, so we'll link it up above somewhere around here so that you can take a look and watch all the reasons why I love Fort York if you're interested in that. But, you know, there's some really good value in that area. It's a little bit more affordable than City Place or some of the surrounding neighborhoods. Great for investment, easy for highways. But for any of my clients that are worried about any price fluctuations right now, I think anything on the subway line is really insulated against that. They typically perform a little bit better over time. Anything close to universities, there's always demand for those types of properties. And it depends. If you're someone that loves nightlife and socializing, then Yorkville or King West, where a lot of the lounges and nightlife is, might be a good option for you. Or maybe you're someone that wants to roll out of bed and be able to walk across the street to work or have access to the underground path. It really just depends on what your specific goals are. And that's something that we really dive deep on whenever we have a client in front of us that wants to have a conversation about what neighborhoods they should buy in. From a housing perspective, I love Wallace Emerson. It's been on Toronto Life's neighborhoods to watch for the last 5 to 7 years. It's neighboring to the Annex, so you get some of that spillover from that kind of nice high-end upscale neighborhood. It's still walking distance to the Bloor subway line. There's great schools. You're just outside of Midtown, but you're not quite in downtown. So it's one of those tweener neighborhoods. It's still really, really quick to get right downtown if you're working downtown, and easy to get to highways. I love that neighborhood, but again, it's really going to depend on what you're looking for and what your family goals are and what your lifestyle is. So again, that's something that's super subjective, and if you want to have a conversation about your purchasing goals and what neighborhoods that you're looking for, please reach out. This is something that we love to work specifically one-on-one with our clients. How do I know if it's the one? I can usually tell. When you've been selling real estate for long enough and you see clients and you go through homes with them, you can pretty much tell because their energy changes. But how will you know specifically as the buyer? It's going to take some trial and error. So I would suggest the first thing that needs to happen is for you to drill down and have like a very good needs analysis conversation with your agent, talking about what your must-haves are so that you're not looking at a bunch of stuff that isn't even close. Like if you're someone that hates to have a bedroom without a window, I'm not going to show that to you. If you're someone that has to have a backyard with some outdoor space for your fur babies or for your kids to run around with, or you just like to barbecue, then we're going to make sure that we're showing you good properties. On average, our clients are looking between 10 to 15 properties in a specific neighborhood before they have a really good scope and grasp of what value is in that area. So if I've showed you 15 to 20 homes and you haven't found one that you want to make an offer on, then we have to revisit the conversation. Either we have to increase your price, lower your expectations, or consider looking at a different neighborhood and kind of starting that process all over again. So it's something that, you know, once you've seen that number, you're either, I like this neighborhood and this type of property, or I don't, and we have to go back to the drawing board. But you'll know, you'll start to go through the space, envisioning yourself living there and what color you're going to paint the walls, imagining your kids playing in the backyard. That's a pretty strong indicator that this is one that you want to consider. And then when we sit down and do our needs analysis with our clients, I always tell them nothing's going to be perfect. There's always going to be a compromise. There's very rarely a 10 out of 10. If you can find something that's a 7.5 or higher, then we usually coach our clients to consider making an offer on that property. So we get you guys to rank it as you go through the properties, and then you and I both know that if you rank something an 8.5, then I'm going to ask you if you want to make an offer on it. And usually you can tell when we have that little like gut check when I ask if it's going to be a good fit for you. And it's always like amazing to see people have the light bulbs turn on and for them to feel like, oh my gosh, this is our house. So, but don't fall in love with it until we have an accepted offer, okay? When is the deposit due? So the deposit is funds that need to be delivered to the seller once an offer is accepted. So typically it's about 5% of the purchase price. It gets delivered to the seller's real estate brokerage and it gets held in trust until closing. and it needs to be delivered contractually unless there's something we've prearranged within 24 hours. So if you're someone that banks with Tangerine, if you're someone that banks with Simply, please make sure that you have the funds transferred into another account, or that you have a friend or family member on standby to be able to give you the funds, and then you can reimburse them once you get them out of one of those online banks. Because in order for the contract to be valid and for us not to be in breach, we have to be able to deliver it within that 24-hour time period. So something to be aware of, and we always have that conversation up front with our clients so that they know, and that when they find the one, that we can just worry about submitting an offer. What is a typical closing date? So this is something that's going to vary also based on the market. I know I keep saying that, I feel like a broken record, but real estate is very dynamic and it's changing all the time. We've had like a crazy 2 years, but we're starting to shift more towards a buyer's market, or even a balanced market. As a result of that, we're going to see sellers requesting longer closing dates. And this is because they haven't purchased a home, they want to sell their property and know what the number is and what the closing date is, and they want to allow themselves some time to shop for a new home before you take possession and get the keys of theirs. So typically you're going to see 60 to 90 days in a very robust, strong seller's market where there's 26 offers and everything's selling for $500,000 over asking price. You're typically going to see shorter closing dates between 30 to 60 days. As of right now, we're trending 60 to 90 plus, but that's something that, could change on a dime. But that's where we're at, and it's going to be specific to the market that you're shopping in and also the seasonality and what's happening in the current marketplace. Should I save 20% down to save on C fees or like mortgage insurance fees? I mean, look, if you have 20%, amazing, that's great. Or if your family, like your parents can top you up, that's great too. If you are buying a property that's over 1 million, you have no choice, you have to put down 20%. But I find most of the time, like our first time buyers will come to us, they have some money in RRSPs, they have some money saved up, maybe they have 10% or 15%, and they're wondering, is it worth it for them to try and save up that extra 5%? Historically, I haven't found this has worked out very well for people because the market's going up for the last few years. It's been double-digit growth per year. So let's just make the math easy for me and say 1% a month on a $800,000 condo, that's going to be $8,000. Most of my clients can't save faster than the market's appreciating. So unless you have no expenses, and even if you're living at home with your parents, you're still gonna have groceries, you're still gonna have car payments, probably the cell phone, it's gonna be tough for you to save and outpace where the market's going. And I know someone's gonna say it, so don't come for me. Even if we're in a market that's softening up a little bit, interest rates are also going up. So that number, like that mortgage insurance premium, gets blended in with your mortgage payment and gets paid out. It's not like you have to come up with it up front. It gets blended across your mortgage for the term that you have negotiated with the bank. If you factor that in, if interest rates are also going up, which is what's causing the softening of prices, you're going to pay more interest, which is also going to cut into your profit and how fast you pay down the mortgage. So they kind of cancel each other out. Like that's something that if you really want to drill down and have us speculate on what might happen and prepare a net sheet for you, we can do it. And I have some amazing lenders that will also be able to run through the pros and cons for you, but I just haven't seen it really work out that often for people. So I would suggest if you find a home that you like, you have your pre-approval, we have enough down payment that we can purchase the property, that it does make sense to get into home ownership and start moving up the property ladder now versus waiting and trying to save up, because we don't know what's going to happen. The market could shift up just as quickly as it's shifting down. So we'll have to see. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. What is a better investment, a condo or a house? That is something that I think is going to depend on how much money you have to spend and how involved you want to be as a landlord. Houses traditionally perform better over time as a real estate investment. So, and also when you have a house, it's likely going to have a couple apartments in it. So maybe a main floor, an upper level, and potentially a basement apartment. Things to factor in is somebody has to cut the grass, somebody has to shovel the snow. And there's always maintenance, especially on some of these older homes downtown. Maybe you're physically living in the property, but if it's a straight up investment and you're not living in the property, you're maybe not going to notice things like the roof shingles coming up a little bit and water getting it damage in, or stuff happening with the foundation. And tenants sometimes aren't the best at notifying you of these things, so problems get a little worse by the time they get noticed and have to be fixed. It could end up costing you money there. And I live in a 111-year-old house. There's always fix-ups and maintenance and money that I'm putting into maintaining the property. So that is part of owning a home. The other thing to factor in is these 3 apartments. The rent generated per apartment is going to be a little bit less than what you would get for one very sexy, newer condo unit. The caliber of tenants are people that can afford a little bit less, and sometimes they're not as AAA tenants as you would get if you're putting them into, like, say, a $2,600 a month one-bedroom condo rental. And you will potentially have a property manager fee, and then landscaper, some of those people that are going to look after managing the property. And also from a financing perspective, the banks, unless they're legal apartments, may not count the rental income when they're pre-approving you and pre-qualifying you for the mortgage. Just something to discuss and to consider. And if you are interested in getting a pre-approval done for an investment property, we have some amazing lender affiliates that we work with, and I would be happy to make an introduction. Just go ahead and reach out and I will send that list over to you. For a condo, obviously you have the maintenance fee. They're lower risk, they're also lower return. Condos don't appreciate as high. I find, like, people read these books on property investing and ROI and cap rates. It's really hard to make the numbers work in Toronto unless you're putting like 30% down. Oftentimes with interest rates and where the rental rates are, you're going to be breaking even or coming out of pocket a little bit, especially with the condos with the higher maintenance fee. It can be hard to have the numbers work from like a traditional ideal investment perspective, but I'm happy to work with you directly and have some more in detail conversations if this is something that you're interested in discussing. But I think you have to kind of throw those numbers out that you read from some of the investment books for right now anyways, just based on our Toronto market and how that has historically performed over time. So to answer that question, it really depends on what your goals are and how involved you want to be. House or condo. How much can I negotiate off the seller's asking price? This is something that's going to be super dependent on what's happening in the market. So I will talk about what's happening right now, which is a little bit of softening. I'm seeing between 95 to 98% of asking prices being achieved, which means that the buyers can typically negotiate between 2 and 5%, sometimes even 10% if the seller kind of like missed the mark and went a little too high. But you are going to be able to negotiate off the asking price, which is amazing. So when we sit buyers down and we have a conversation about their needs analysis on what they're looking for, we'll actually pull all the numbers for the last 30 days or longer, depending on what kind of market we're in, and show them this is approximately what the average sold price is for homes. This is what the approximate list price is for homes, and the average home that's what, like, similar to what you're looking for is selling for 97% list to sold ratio. So that'll give them kind of a general idea when they're shopping for homes online, if they're factoring in how much we can typically negotiate off. This is a much better market, ding, 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 buyers, to be shopping in, because you can actually look online, see a house that is in your price range that you like, and you can call me and I can show it to you, and we can probably put an offer and get it for less than asking price, versus the last 2 years where homes are selling so far and without any rhyme or reason above the ask price that poor buyers didn't have a clue what to even consider doing when shopping for homes online. So it just became a little bit easier for you to actually pick out and find properties. So that's amazing, and yet another reason why now is a good time to be considering making a purchase in Toronto. Will house prices drop in Toronto? Question. Probably they will continue to soften up, and the reason I say that is because I just feel like over the summer months we do see some softening. We're coming into the end of July, so the August numbers will come out from our Toronto Real Estate Board, and I think that we will see that numbers did soften up quite a bit over the July, and typically we will see numbers start to increase in the market to get a little bit stronger coming into the fall. That's a historical pattern that our real estate market here in Toronto tends to follow. However, will that happen? I don't know. I think it's going to really depend on buyer confidence, and if the Bank of Canada does another rate increase, which there's talk that they might. So, possibly home prices will soften a little bit further, but there's one thing that I do know, and then it's that home prices are going to be more in 5 years than they are today. Our market traditionally across all of Canada is between 4 to 7% growth per year. Toronto and Vancouver do tend to perform a little bit better than that. And we've seen double digits and very strong growth over the last couple of years. So even if we have 1 year that's a little bit softer, you're going to likely start seeing those numbers start to appreciate and return to a more balanced, normal price growth appreciation year over year for the coming years. So expect that 4 to 7% growth per year, and you can kind of see where we're going to end up. Will we have some more softening? I don't know, but it will be, your home will be worth more. It should be a long-term hold. No day trading real estate, guys. Buy first or sell first. We've talked about this in a little bit of detail, like kind of scattered through the video, and I actually had done another previous video on this. It's going to depend on what kind of market we're in. I would say right now, please consider selling your home first. I think it's going to be way less stressful for you. You're going to know exactly how much you have to spend. You can adjust your mortgage pre-approval for the new home that you're shopping for, and we'll have a closing date. Typically right now, what I'm advising about 95% of our clients is that you sell first. We know what the price is going to be. We ask for a longer closing date between 60 to 90 plus days. That allows us time to be shopping for a new home without the extra pressure. It's really hard. You lose a lot of your leverage and just sanity if you are buying first in a market like this. So I think it just makes a lot more sense. Obviously, this is a case-by-case basis. There's some people that have something so specific that they're looking for that comes up once in a blue moon, and it's not going to be a situation where you're going to want to sell first, because then you're going to be in a rental, and that just also doesn't make sense. It's on a case-by-case basis, but I would say most of our clients, we're advising them to go ahead and sell their property first and then be shopping simultaneously at the same time, but get the home sold first before we enter into any purchase agreements. Do I have to work with you exclusively? At the Homeplicity Realty Group, yes, you do. And the reason I say that is because we want to make sure that we are as committed to you as you are to us. So I want to make sure that when we're helping a client find a home, that we have the time to sit down and have a really good needs analysis with them. If we have to look at those 10 to 15 different homes and property types in every neighborhood in Toronto until you find the right one, that's our commitment to you. If there's nothing available on the market and we have to knock on doors or call our sphere of agents or make calls or send out notes in order to find that property for you, that's something we're committed to doing. And we just wouldn't have the capacity to do that for everyone and anyone who calls and asks about a property that we have listed or something on our website. It's a commitment that needs to go both ways. And as a buyer, I mean, it doesn't have to be me. Obviously, myself and the agents that work on my team are licensed real estate agents, and we would love to apply for the job of helping you find a new home. But even if it's not me, I do think that you should definitely find an agent that you're aligned with and that you feel comfortable and confident that they're going to do a great job searching for and negotiating on your sale price for your future home. It's a lot of work for you to be calling all these different agents and setting up your own property viewings. This is something that a really great agent can take off your hands. We're out searching and previewing and have years of experience looking at properties, so we have a good idea of what they're going to sell for, so we're able to do a good job structuring the offer for you and also making sure that you're protected from any liability, pointing out things that could be potential downfalls or pitfalls for the home or condo. So you want to make sure that you have a really good relationship with your agent, and that comes by having a commitment on both sides to work together. We've had clients that we have worked with for 5 to 7 years before they end up finding a property. Obviously, that's a long time, and people take pauses and breaks, but I would suggest that it does make a lot of sense to find someone that you're aligned with and you feel that they're going to do a good job and that you can work together and develop a really great relationship of trust and openness so that they can find you an amazing home. So if you're looking for a home and you're looking for an agent to help you navigate the process, then obviously we would love to apply for the job to help you. If you're a seller and you're wondering what your property's worth and kind of what that would look like in this market, DM me. I'm more than happy to have a conversation on the phone with you or a needs analysis. And then any of the information that we didn't discuss, you can take a look at in the description below. We'll have some links to stuff like land transfer tax calculator and all of those good things that you might need access to. Until next time, I'm Stephanie Nause with the Homeplicity Realty Group. Thank you for watching. I hope you'll consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Go ahead and follow us at Homeplicity Realty on Instagram and Facebook for all of our amazing blog posts, other videos, and I will see you next time. Bye.